Markus, thanks so much for talking to us. We're at the Active Intelligent Packaging Industry Association. Yes. It's such a long title, I have to always read it. And you've just come off stage after giving a tour de force, the best presentation, as far as I'm concerned. And you were basically talking about a pilot that you did for Absolut, as in vodka, but you're part of a much bigger company, right?
Yes, exactly. So Absolut Vodka is one of the brands in the portfolio. So we have Pernod Ricard as a portfolio company with about 200 brands, and it's the second largest distributor and producer of alcohol products in the world.
All right. Well, thank you for your work. I've enjoyed it personally. And what do you do for them?
So my title is a little bit self-defined. My name is Markus Wulff, and I work with digital business innovation. And what that is probably everything outside regular marketing and outside regular product development. So traditionally, innovation within our business has been new flavors, new packaging could be, but it's more of how it looks, not the functionality. So my focus is how can we deliver consumer value with adding technology, and that could be either in homes, in off-trade or on-trade. So off-trade is retail, on-trade is bars and restaurants, and home is connected to home trade.
All right. And tell us, just at a high level, what was it? What was the use case? What was the pilot that you were talking about earlier?
So from the beginning, we have bottles being shipped every year to retailers, and it's quite a lot of bottles every year.
Ballpark?
Yeah, for Absolut it's 110 million bottles every year, and for other brands in the portfolio, for example Malibu, is around 40-50 million. And that's just two of the brands within the Pernod Ricard portfolio. So let's say with those you have 150 million bottles that being put on the shelf or in bars and restaurants. So we thought, how could this be something that actually it's a static piece of glass with alcohol in it. Even though it's a great product, can we use the packaging to be something that consumers could interact with?
Yeah.
Because if you think about retail, there is a lot of bottles on the shelves, but most FMCG brands don't know what's happening.
Fast-moving consumer goods.
Fast-moving consumer.
So you're disconnected, you kind of hand it off to the retailer, and then who knows what happens. So you're trying to kind of directly connect with folks.
Exactly.
And what was the technology that you used?
So we used NFC, near field communication, small chips that you can put on almost any surface, not metal though, because it disturbs the antenna. But that is a static, you don't need any battery, and it reacts when you have some sort of reader. For example, the iPhone can read it, so I put my phone like this, it has an antenna, and the radio frequency can read a specific number or URL or an ID of the ship.
Okay.
So that's what's happening.
So you essentially have a sticker which has got a chip in it and an antenna, and there's a field generated by the phone that powers this thing up, and it sends you either a URL or a number that an app might understand.
Exactly.
And so what was the app in this case?
The thing was, there was no app. We did an evaluation of different technologies. We did actually like a demo room. How can you use iBeacons in retail? How can you use NFC, QR code, augmented reality, Eddystone, which is the next generation of beacons, and looked how can this be relevant for us, for consumers and the retailers. And when you look at it, it's they all have advantages and disadvantages. The hardest thing is to scale these technologies because even though it costs maybe like $5 with a beacon and you put it in store, when you scale this, it becomes quite a big number. And if you think about 150 million bottles. Cost was one of the factors, and the other one was the thresholds for interacting. And we wanted to have such a frictionless interaction as possible. So we choose NFC because you actually don't need an app on Android phones. You just tap your phone to the bottle and it reacts on that.
How did you let people know where on the bottle to tap? Because that's one of the challenges, isn't it?
It is a big challenge, I would say. And since it's still like no industry standard, luckily the Malibu brand has, its logo is a sunset that is circular.
All right.
And the NFC chip was the exact same size.
All right.
So we put it behind the sun logo.
So NFC chips are flat and bottles of Malibu are fairly curved.
Yes.
How do you stop the chip being broken in a fulcrum?
This is a challenge, I would say, because there are a lot of suppliers that have NFC tags and sell them. But if you look at the production we're having, it's tested, it's quality assured, we know exactly what's happening. But what happens is if you put something on a bottle that hasn't been there before, it works, maybe it works correct, but maybe it doesn't either, because they have a process of bottling. You need to put on the labels, the cap, you might go into a heat tunnel with the shrink sleeve. So there are many steps in the operations process that might destroy, might do something with the chip. And this is something that you only can test. You have to do it in your own facility and test it.
So you managed to crack it somehow. Did you put padding in, or did you just not squeeze too hard?
So the Malibu bottle has a shrink sleeve, which is a plastic that goes into a heat tunnel, and then it has the form of the bottle. The actual NFC chip is put on the roll of the shrink sleeve. So you have like a big roll, and you put the NFC on the backside of the print, just where we want it. And then the roll goes on the bottle, and then it's in shrink. But the thing is, if we put the chips, so on the belt, all bottles will be, we can have a production speed of 15,000 bottles an hour, and these will go and hit each other on the belt, and it needs to do that, and that is quality assured of how the quality of the glass is. But if you put something that is fragile on it, it becomes something else. So we realized that they can actually not be put in a position where it connects to another bottle.
Okay.
And by having the curved bottle, we could move it a little bit down, and so it's in a safe place now. So it didn't need any cushion or anything. It's like,
and that's, I'm just trying to think, I have drunk quite a bit of Malibu in my time, but I can't remember, is the bottle like that, or it has a little bit of a curve on it?
It has, maybe, because a few years ago we did a redesign, so it's being more curved now.
Okay.
And the curve is on the bottom, or the bottom half of the bottle.
All right. So we've been talking about how you apply it, how just some of the issues with production. We haven't even talked about how you program it. So let's do about that, and then we'll quickly describe what actually happens. So how do you program these tags? Did they have unique IDs or?
So that is a part of the pilot. How do we actually handle the tags? And in this case, we had a predefined unique URL, which the URL itself was the same, but there was an ID as well that was unique. So
it was like you were serializing the bottles with...
Exactly.
Which is something that the industry wants to do anyway.
But that's the thing. When ordering the tags, you can pretty much choose how you want them to be handled, and that it's quite a nice feature with the NFC tags that you can have unique identities.
So we should cover off what the consumer got out of that, because I know you emphasize that a lot, because if they don't get anything out about it, you can have the tags, they can work, but no one's going to tap them.
No, but I think right now there are a lot of suppliers, a lot of new technology. We have, I would say, also from a brand perspective that, okay, can we use this technology to get more data from the consumers? But the biggest challenge is how do we actually get consumers to interact with the bottle? And by, I would say, giving them much more than the value they give away in personal data is the only way to get consumers to interact with your products. Because if you say, watch our latest commercial, I mean, you're still it's like moving from your own website, but you do it on a mobile. So it needs to be something that is contextual. Now we know where they tap the bottle. We know it's the first or second or third time. We can see if there are like local activations, activities going on, for example, like festivals that we can tap into. So it's very much, I would say, a little bit different thinking to create services and partnerships that benefits the consumers.
So the thing of value was what, a contest? Or?
I would say the contest was a trigger to interact with the bottle. So we had the two parts. One was the contest, which was you could win a trip to a sunny island, or you could win Bluetooth speakers. The other part was we used contextual data. So depending on where the person interacted with the bottle and what the weather was like, we could suggest bars nearby. So it was more than 25 degrees, we could suggest rooftop bars. It was less, we had curated other bars nearby.
And was it like an instant reward, or did they have to wait for the results?
We had two tracks there as well. The big prize was not instant, and I think we had a 3-month notice till the consumers know if they had won. And the other part was like every day there was a prize. And I think that was a big learning as well, that we could see a lot more engagement with the daily prizes, because there's probably a behavior as well from I mean, the younger audience, that you want to interact and you want to see the results directly. So we could see that even though people participated in the competition for the big prize, it was a much higher engagement with the daily prizes. And it's a learning, that's how it is.
There's so much involved getting this right, but you had some good results, and I know you can't give away the exact statistics, but can you give us kind of a ballpark sense of what kind of conversion rate you got?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, just to give it a perspective, the connected packaging is a quite new area, so it's, I mean, I wouldn't say there are any like benchmarks. There are a few other examples that have been scaled up, and in regular digital channels is around 0.02% that click on a banner. With this one, we had around 3-4% conversion,
which is amazingly good.
I think, I mean, if we look at new behavior and that we tried out something as a pilot, I think it is, I mean, we were happy with the results, and I think, I mean, if you look at the future, the contactless and tapping behavior will be something that is standard behavior. But of course there will be other competitors, other brands doing the same thing.
Of course.
Like, give and take.
Yes, absolutely. They're all different tools in the kit bag. But just what about that tapping behavior by country? Because you mentioned something in the Q&A about that, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, it is, if you look at different markets, it's, even though we can see, for example, Europe has a very high usage of mobile apps, mobile phones, using services. The contactless, that you actually can use your phone or credit cards or any cards to do things wirelessly is not a behavior that exists in all countries.
It certainly doesn't exist in the United States. People just have
Exactly.
even less than over here. But in the UK, it does. Why is it in the UK?
I think there are two reasons. It's first of all the Oyster cards where you can, when you go to your work every morning, you just put your card like this and it opens up so you can take the underground to work. But then the Visa and MasterCard have done a great job with their contactless credit cards. So if you have the sign of contactless, I would say almost any merchandise or
People get it.
Yeah, exactly.
They have that
activated
muscle memory
Yeah.
in some countries. So
And the third one is Apple Pay. Apple launched in US and UK, so now it's been there for a couple, it's actually 3 years now, so I think that's also a behavior that exists, that you use your phone to actually do transactions.
And so you started off with Tesco in the UK, and you're running it here in Amsterdam.
Yes, we are. We're running it in Amsterdam as well. We did the first pilot with 45,000 bottles in the UK. Now we have a roadmap for several pilots, both in Europe and US. And it's all about activating locally, because even though we have the NFC tags on the bottles, it can be hyper-local. The messaging can be hyper-local. So let's say we want to do something in Amsterdam. The communication can be about this event if you tap it in the radius of 500 meters here. So it's, it's a global initiative, but it's activated locally. And I think that's the important thing, that it can be very relevant dependent on location and timings and what's happening around you.
So, what's next? You've got good engagement, but there's cost issues in this. How much does an NFC tag cost?
Depends on, the thing is that the actual tag isn't that expensive, but there aren't that many suppliers that can handle labeling, converting, and do everything that has to do with the packaging industry.
And explain the jargon, converting, what does that mean?
The labeling is, if you have a bottle and you have a label on it, you might want to put the chip on the label.
Yes.
And that's something that, not all suppliers support today, because it's a new offering for them. So for the first part, we ordered the NFC chips ourselves and spoke to our suppliers, can you apply this to the shrink sleeve? And it's I would say it will come quite soon, but it's still hard to get like a full service from the suppliers that say, okay, you can put the NFC chip on the label, and if, for example, you want to do something with the label that the shrink sleeve and everything, to take responsibility that the technology will work in the production, and by doing that, it is a service that is offered by suppliers. Today, it's if something doesn't work, it can be either the chip, it can be because there is two materials that connects. There can be heat that is in the production. There can be like bottles shaking or hit each other. So a lot of moments that can go wrong, and I think it's a maturity track for suppliers to actually offer labeling, converting with tags on them. So it's actually you buy one thing from the suppliers.
So you mentioned things can go wrong. Do you have a sense of what kind of yield you got out of that process? Was it like 100% of the bottles operating, or did you?
No, I think from during the testing with the pilot, we had quite good results. Then we had totally different results in another facility, and then we did with other bottles. We could see that they hit each other and it broke the chip on the NFC. So there are a lot of things that can work in one test, but on different bottles with maybe different location, but you think it's the same process, it can be totally different. So it's still like a learning phase for us as well.
And so what next? Is it just more learning, or do you have something that you can share about where you want to go with this?
No, we will, right now we're deploying in Amsterdam. We have several other European countries that will go on next, early 2018. Then we're looking into, from a more holistic view, how do we scale this to all bottles and see it as a part of our business model and the value we create for the consumers. So what value do we actually, I think there are two tracks. One is the technology track. How do we get this into the bottles without any, that is not a piloting phase, more of an always on. And then the other one is how do we add value for the consumers? And that is more of, how can we be relevant? Should we create tighter partnerships with local services? Can there be something that you use to unlock value in airports or wherever it is? So depending on where you are. So I think that's two tracks that we at the moment going parallel.
So the last question, because I'm going on stage in just a few minutes, but I do want to just hear from you. Can you say anything about the analytics that you got, the data?
Yeah. So that's quite interesting. We got quite a lot of data from the interaction with the bottle. And we do gather a lot of data before the pilot as well in our digital channels. And we also do a lot of consumer quality evaluations to see, okay, what is our target group, what do they think about the future of packaging, etc. I think with this one we could go a little bit deeper with seeing interest the consumer target group has, what music they listen to, what movie categories they.
So you were asking them questions as part of the contest?
Actually not. So this is, I would say this is not identified data on a personal level, but it's data that is collected in a group from the people who participated in the competitions. So you use Facebook Connect to, actually log into the competition, and then we can see different categories, what they are interested in. So we can't see, okay, this person is interested in this, but we can see it from the group level.
Fascinating. Well, Markus, congratulations. That's just a huge amount of work, and you did it.
Thank you, and thank you for being in the podcast as well.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Good luck on stage.
We have a warm-up question that we ask all our guests, which is what 3 songs you would take on a long trip to, like, Mars or something.
I would take David Bowie's the Space song.
Space Oddity?
Yeah, Space Odyssey, definitely.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's a perfect song. And I would take ABBA. It's Swedish. So, ABBA song, Dancing Queen. And then there is like two Swedish guys who sings and plays guitar. It's called Olofsson and Falk. Olofsson and Falk is 2 last names.
Okay.
And they have a song that I've always been listening on, and now I have it on repeat when I go in the car. So I maybe listen to it 10 times in a row.
And what's the song called?
It's called Blinking Blue. It's actually about the transformation in like humans and technology. But that's not why I like it. But it's a really good song.
All right. Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah. And so you're from Sweden?
I am from Sweden, yeah.
And do you work out of Sweden?
I work out of Stockholm. I work for the Absolut Company that has Absolut in the portfolio. Absolut has been a Swedish product for a long time. Then it was acquired by Pernod Ricard. It's still produced in Sweden. The headquarters is still in Sweden. but we work globally. So it's the headquarters of Absolut. We do strategies, innovation, and marketing frameworks for all markets.
Very cool.